on this scramble, Elliott does the blue V. He sees he can solve the green-blue and the blue-red edge by doing L prime to match up the green edge, and then U to match up the red edge. Now you have this big block. And here, the logical way to solve it is with a BLB, and then that gives you that L4E, which is okay. However, we'll get into the solution in a bit. First, let's talk about your execution of the tips, because that was horrible. You solved one tip at a time, and you also had a really long pickup by like regripping for that. What you should have done is just solve both tips at once on the pickup, like that. You could have like picked up while doing the L move, you set up for the U move, and then BLB. But apart from that, your solution was also just terrible, because why are you doing two B moves? And there were plenty of other Vs. Like this V is kind of stupid to even look at. Some other Vs, if you wanted to do blue, you could see that like you have a bunch of oriented edges. So like if you insert this edge, the yellow edge is going to end up here. And when you insert that, you're going to get a block. So like that, and look, you have a block and just a 3-move insert. That is not too bad, and it's fairly finger tricky, like that. Other solutions that are pretty obvious to find on yellow, you see these two edges in this pattern. You can insert either one in whatever order you want. So if you did that, you get this case with no UFs, or you can do that, and then you get this case. This solution is the one that you absolutely have no excuse for missing. It's just solving these two edges. It's the most efficient V, U prime, R prime, U prime, R prime, and then you just get this ML4E with no post AUF. The good solutions here are on red. You can solve these two edges by like that. You have to just move this edge down, center down first. And so you can either do R prime and then do it, and then you see here you can just cancel into Polish flip. But the better solution here is the other variation of that, where you start with the L prime and then you do U prime, R prime, L prime, and when you look at that, it's a 6-move body. So yeah, the takeaway for this solve is look for better Vs. Like, just because a V is efficient and you can maybe, like, I don't think you really cared about what L4 you got here. That's something at your level you should be thinking about, like, what L4E is this V gonna give me, because that will make or break whether I decide to do it. Like, the 6-mover is like a mid V, but, you know, it gives an L4E skip, versus some of the other ones, like the other blue V, is very finger tricky, but it's 7-move V, but then it gives you a 3-move L3E. So like, you just need to consider that more in your solutions. And that's not even fully about one looking. One looking was obviously a big part of it, but you should be able to notice when you're getting blocks and stuff. On the second scramble, Elliott did the red V. He sees that there's a red-yellow edge solved here, and that he can insert the red-blue edge by kind of doing like the little one-foot lip trick. But the way he executes it is he picks it up, does these two tips, and then L, R, U prime to match that up, and then here he just has to do a B, R prime to get those edges solved, and then U and 6-mover. So I actually don't hate your solution here. It isn't the most efficient, but it is very finger tricky. There is an obvious like 3-move V here, but it's awkward to execute, and you can like do that, or you can do it from this angle, like this, and then like slightly more move efficient, but not necessarily speed efficient, is doing it like this and then rotating. Yeah, so your solution was fine. I actually like it because it flows really well. The main issue here is your tip execution. You picked it up first and then reached to do the tips and then regripped again so you could do the L. So you just did like 2 regrips plus a pickup just to get one body move done. And then the rest of the solve was fine, but a better way to execute this is by doing the tips with your right hand and also just going straight for it on the pickup. Because if you do it with your right hand, that leaves your left hand open to start the V with an L move. Because then like you can just kind of do them all like almost simultaneously. And another thing, like picking it up and then doing the tips is pretty like, it's just inefficient. There's no reason to do that. The way I would execute this is like pick up like that and then L and then finish it off. On scramble 3, there's an obvious big bar here. So Elliott goes ahead and does the blue V. He's going to insert the yellow blue edge and then get bad Nikki. The way he executes it, he picks it up, does the tips like that, and then goes right into it. And his execution was pretty good there. No real complaints. I actually think you did the tips correctly this time. Obviously not how I do tips, but I think that's a good way of doing it on that solve. The issue here is your body was 12 moves, and yes, it was finger tricky, but you really have no excuse for not looking further. Like, I assume you checked that, and that's one thing. Like, yeah, maybe that's not as good, but then you should have checked green. And green, you can just do that, and then you get Polish flip with no AUFs, and that saves you 3 moves on the body. Okay, on this solve, Elliott does the yellow V. He's going to solve the red-yellow and the yellow-blue edge. He picks it up and does the tips like that, and then R, U, L prime, B prime, and then spam. Once again, with the tip execution, you should really just be going straight for it rather than like picking it up and then doing it. I think that's just something you're gonna have to practice, like do the same scramble over and over and just practice how you do tips. The actual finger tricks for them, I don't mind. That was fine. I do it like that, but I'm weird. So the main issue here is your choice of V. So you chose to solve, there's 2 ways to solve this V in 4 moves. You chose to do it like that, which is like solving the red-yellow edge to this center instead of this center. If you chose to do this center, which you should have realistically checked, you can do U, R, B prime, L prime, and then you just get good Nikki with no AUF. And you can take it a step further, since I know you've learned ML4E here, and you definitely know this case. You can do it from this angle and do it like that, and then just cancel into good Nikki, and that will take your solution from 10 moves to 9 moves. For your solution, I don't really mind the high move count too much because this L4E case is just insanely fast. So you had this L4E case, which is really good, but the L4E you would have gotten from doing it the other way is literally just better because it's the first 6 moves are identical, but then this one solves, and that one you still have 4 moves left. So yeah, I would just make sure to keep looking. Like, just because you see you could solve a V one way, you should look at the other ways you can potentially solve the same V, because in this case there were 2 ways to solve the exact same edges in 4 moves, and you picked the worst of the 2. For the last solve, Elliott does the yellow V. He sees that there's a red-yellow edge solved, and he's going to then solve the yellow-blue edge. So he picks it up, does this tip, and then does that tip, and then does L, and then inserts this edge, and then he gets spam with no AUFs. So I don't have anything to say really about your solution. I think this is pretty good. I will just quickly note that there was several different ways that you can go about solving this V and to influence like L3E. So first off, what I would see here is I could solve this edge first, and then I can cancel in the sledge. Another way of doing that is by just doing the L and then inserting that, and then you get a sledge. You can either rotate or do ML4E. And then finally, you can also do that. That doesn't really give anything good though. And then you can do a sledge like that, and then you get this case. So while those are all technically like more move efficient, they're definitely not finger trick efficient compared to just that solution, because that's insanely fast. But yeah, like you've done in previous solves, you're picking it up, then doing each tip individually, and then you go to start the body. So you're losing just so much time with your pickups, because I mean, that realistically should have been like 1.5 or something, and you got a 1.8 with good execution, like good turning. It was just your pickup being so slow that it's causing you to lose time. So the main thing you need to work on after I've looked at all of your solves is your tip execution and your choice of V. I know that you're capable of one looking, and I know that you are capable of finding all of the solutions that I showed in this video. I think you just aren't looking for them. Like it seems like once you found a solution, you just go with that. And while I don't disagree with this strategy, I think there is improvement to be made here. Like if you find a V, look at other ways of solving that V, maybe inserting a move in the middle of it to influence L4E, because I'm not really sure if you are considering what L4E you're getting. I think you're just one looking and then doing it on whatever V you find, when at your level you really should be considering the continuation, so like the whole body rather than just the V. And then your tip execution really needs to be worked on. You keep doing pickup and then the tips, when the tips should just be done on pickup. Like instead of doing that and then that, you just go straight into that. So that's one thing to work on. And then you also did have a little bit of an issue with picking the right finger tricks for the tips. Like on one of the solves, you chose to do it with your left hand, and then it went to an L. When if you did the same thing with your right hand and then did the L, you could have done all three moves like basically simultaneous. So yeah, just work on that. The way I would recommend working on these things is, for solutions, use Piotr Olszewski's Pyraminx solver. That's a really good tool to find new solutions. And then for execution, down solve, down solve, down solve. Just do like an average of 12 and spend like 30 minutes on that average of 12. Just do every solve, check out different executions for it, and just practice it down until every solve is perfect.